The alarm screamed through the medical bay at 0300 hours, and Corporal Maya Chen was already moving before her eyes fully opened. She had been a field medic for 3 years aboard the joint species vessel Iron Covenant, and her body knew the difference between a drill and a real emergency. This was real. She ran down the corridor in her medical scrubs, her kit bag bouncing against her hip. The ship's AI directed her to Cargo Bay 7, which made her stomach tighten. That was where the Kraven warriors kept their war beasts, the massive predators they rode into battle. Humans weren't usually allowed near them. When the bay doors opened, Maya saw Commander Thorak, a 9-foot-tall Kraven warrior, cradling something small against his armored chest. His 4 arms trembled, and his usually fierce red eyes were wide with panic. Around him, a dozen other Kravens stood in a circle, their heads bowed. "Human medic," Thorak's voice came out as a broken growl. "My cub, please. He fades." Maya stepped forward and saw what he held. It was a war beast cub, no bigger than a large dog, though it would grow to the size of a small truck. Its silver fur was matted with sweat, and its breathing came in rapid, shallow gasps. The cub's temperature felt like fire against her hands when she reached out. "Put him on the floor. I need space to work," Maya said, dropping to her knees and opening her kit. The other Kraven made sounds of protest. In their culture, placing a dying cub on the ground was an insult, a way of saying it wasn't worth saving. But Thorak trusted the human. He had seen her work miracles before, pulling soldiers back from death's door with nothing but determination and strange human medicines. He laid his cub down gently. Maya's scanner showed the problem immediately. The cub had consumed something from the cargo hold, a chemical compound toxic to its species. Its organs were shutting down one by one. She had maybe 2 hours before the damage became permanent. The problem was simple and impossible at the same time. War beast biology was completely different from human biology, and most of the medicine in her kit wouldn't work. "How long has he been like this?" Maya asked, already calculating dosages in her head. 6 hours. Our healers tried everything. They said there is no hope. They said we must let him go to the ancestors with honor," Thorak said, his voice breaking on the last word. Maya looked up at the massive warrior. She had served alongside the Kraven for years, had seen them face enemy fire without flinching, had watched them charge into certain death-singing battle songs, but she had never seen one cry. Thorak's tears fell silently down his scaled face. "I'm not giving up," Maya said simply, "and neither are you." She injected the cub with a broad-spectrum antitoxin, knowing it would only buy minutes. Then she pulled out her personal tablet and started searching the ship's medical database. There had to be something, some combination of medicines that could work. The other species in the galaxy had better technology, faster ships, stronger weapons. But humans had one advantage that had surprised everyone. They never knew when to quit. An hour passed. Maya worked without stopping, her hands steady even as sweat dripped down her face. She tried 12 different combinations of medicines, adapting doses based on the cub's responses. Some helped a little, most did nothing. The cub's breathing grew weaker. The Kraven warriors watched in silence. They had seen human stubbornness before, but this was different. This human female had no reason to care about a war beast cub. Her species and theirs had been enemies once, years ago before the alliance. She could walk away, and no one would blame her. But she stayed. Maya's eyes were burning from lack of sleep, but she barely noticed. She was reading everything she could find about toxin removal, about organ function, about anything that might help. Then she found something. A research paper written by a human doctor 50 years ago, before first contact with aliens. It was about treating poisoning in earth animals using a combination of activated charcoal and forced circulation. "It's crazy," Maya muttered to herself. But crazy might work. She looked up at Thorak. I need to put him on IV fluids and manually filter his blood. It's going to hurt him, and it might not work, but it's the only chance he has." Thorak didn't hesitate. "Do it." Maya set up the equipment with shaking hands. She had never performed this procedure on a war beast before, had no idea if their circulatory system would even respond the same way, but she had to try. She inserted the IV line, and the cub whimpered. The sound was small and weak, but it meant he was still fighting. For the next 3 hours, Maya worked in a state of pure focus. She manually pumped fluids through the cub's system, filtering out the toxins bit by bit. Her arms ached, her back screamed in pain from kneeling on the hard floor. She ignored everything except the monitors showing the cub's vital signs. Slowly, impossibly, they started to improve. The cub's breathing deepened. His temperature dropped 1 degree, then another. The readings on Maya's scanner showed his organs beginning to function again. It was working. The crazy human method was actually working. "By the ancestors," one of the Craven warriors whispered. "She's bringing him back." Maya didn't celebrate. She kept working, kept monitoring, kept adjusting the treatment. She knew better than anyone that patients could crash just when things looked hopeful. But as dawn broke over the ship's artificial day cycle, the cub opened his eyes. They were golden and bright, and they focused on Maya's face. The cub made a small sound, almost like a purr, and licked Maya's hand with a rough tongue. Thorak fell to his knees beside Maya, all 4 of his arms shaking. "Human, you have done what our best healers said was impossible. You have returned my son from the shadow of death. There are no words in any language to thank you." Maya sat back on her heels, finally allowing herself to feel the exhaustion. "There are words," she said with a tired smile. "You just said them." The other Craven warriors pressed their fists to their chests in salute, the highest honor they could give. Maya didn't fully understand what it meant to them, but she could see the respect in their eyes. "Why?" Thorak asked quietly. "Why did you fight so hard for him? He is not your species. Not your responsibility." Maya looked down at the cub, who was now sleeping peacefully, his breathing strong and steady. "Because he needed help," she said simply. "And because giving up isn't what humans do. We're too stubborn for that." Thorak made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The galaxy calls humans weak because you have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. But they are fools. You have something stronger than any claw. You have hearts that refuse to break even when they should." Maya stayed with the cub for another 6 hours, monitoring his recovery. She only left when she was certain he was stable, and even then, she checked on him every 4 hours for the next 3 days. The cub recovered fully, growing stronger each day. Word of what happened spread through the ship, then through the fleet, then through the entire Alliance. The story of the human medic who saved a war beast cub with nothing but determination and improvised medicine became legend. Other species began requesting human medics for their crews, not because humans had the best technology, but because they had something better. They never gave up on a patient. Thorak named his son Mayakor, which in the Craven language meant saved by stubborn heart. When the cub grew to his full size years later, he refused to accept any rider except Maya. Together they fought in 12 battles, and Mayakor would allow no harm to come to the small human who had refused to let him die. The other species of the galaxy learned an important lesson that day. Humans might be small, they might be fragile, they might lack natural weapons or armor. But they possessed something that made them truly dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept defeat, especially when someone's life hung in the balance. That stubborn determination, that crazy human hope, made them the most valuable allies anyone could ask for. And it all started with one exhausted medic working through the night to save a fading cub, simply because giving up was never an option.